Hi there, everyone. We're going to get started, so take seats. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for being here. My name is Jacob Aarons. I'm the president of Colby Democrats and a senior here at Colby. We are extremely excited to welcome Troy Jackson to campus today. Thank you so much to his team for helping us through 2 cancellations and reschedules to make this event finally happen. To those of you who are coming from our surrounding community, it's a great pleasure for us to share this space with you all and strengthen the bond between Colby Dems and our neighbors. Colby students, thank you for coming. For those of you who don't already know, this is actually the first in a speaker series we've worked very, very hard to organize. Every Thursday over the next 5 weeks, we are inviting a different candidate from this state's governor and Senate primary. Next week, Grant Plattner will be attending at 7 p.m. in Page Commons. Then Angus King III, Shanna Bellows, Hannah Pingree, and Governor Mills in the following weeks. If you've not already done so, please join us on Mule Life so you can stay up to date on the time and locations of these events. I want to say clearly that Colby Democrats are not endorsing any particular candidate. In what is likely one of the most important election years in Maine's recent history, our goal is to provide students with the opportunity to learn, ask questions, and become involved in the political process. We understand that nowadays politics are full of emotions and strong opinions. Still, we hope that this event can be a productive space where people can engage thoughtfully and with an open mind, but most importantly, without disruptions. One last legal hurdle I have to read for the school. This is a Colby Democrat-sponsored event. The use of Colby College facilities or resources for this event does not constitute support by the college in favor or in opposition of any candidate. The views expressed here are of the speaker and not of Colby. Now, please welcome Waterville Councilor Samantha Burdick to give a quick introduction for Troy.
Good evening, everyone. What a wonderful turnout. So thank you all for coming. My name is Sam Burdick, and I am the Ward 3 City Councilor, which is the City Councilor for the campus here and most Colby students, unless you live in the downtown dorm or off campus. Thank you so much for putting this together, Colby Dems. It's great to see you energized and excited to elect Democrats in Maine. So I could go on for hours about all of the wonderful things about Troy Jackson, all of his legislative accomplishments, his support of education, his support of unions and workers and working class people, how he funded early childhood education and school lunches and all of the wonderful things he did during his tenure as Senate president. But I think he can do that himself. And they've only given me 5 minutes, so I'm going to talk about something a little different. I met Troy because I was asked to run a campaign for Senator LaFountain, who's also in the front row here. And one thing that I don't hear a lot of people talk about when they talk about Troy is his dedication to electing Democrats up and down the ballot in Maine, which is something that is going to be vital in this next election. So Troy has worked tirelessly. He worked in the minority, and he worked tirelessly to build a really strong majority in the Maine State Senate. In fact, it was a historic majority, I am told, 30-year historic majority. And through his efforts to continue to recruit candidates, continue to support candidates, continue to lift up voices of everyone in our communities across Maine, from Kittery to Allagash, he maintained that majority, and it's something that we're very fortunate to still have today. And I think it's really important to note that without those tireless efforts and without our majority in not only as our governor, but also for State House and State Senate, Maine would be a very different place right now. We would be experiencing a very different reality in women's rights. We would be experiencing a very different reality in LGBTQ rights. And we would be experiencing, I think, a very different economic reality right now. and probably wouldn't be enjoying the investments that we've had in education from early childhood and childcare investments all the way to higher ed. So I think it's really important to recognize those efforts and how important they were throughout Troy's tenure, because this year it is vital that we as Democrats elect someone who is able to stand up and support candidates from school board all the way to state senate and get another Democrat in the Blaine House, keep our state house blue, keep our state senate blue, and defeat Susan Collins. And in my opinion, I am so happy to support my dear friend Troy to do that, because I think he is the best man for the job. So I welcome Troy Jackson for governor.
Well, good evening, brothers and sisters. I really appreciate that. And thanks so much, Samantha, Valerie, Senator LaFontaine, Dave. This is a great turnout, and I really appreciate it. Samantha talked a lot about my time in the state senate. Some of you may know me, and probably a lot don't, but I'm a fifth-generation logger from Allagash, and I'm very honored to be standing here tonight for you. I've been endorsed by Bernie Sanders, Congressman Ro Khanna, Dan Osborne, his Working Heroes PAC, 40 labor unions, the Mi'kmaq tribe has endorsed my candidacy. A lot of really great people and organizations have backed this campaign. Because I think they're looking for somebody that's going to change the system in here in Maine, which is exactly what I want to do. And I'd like to explain to you why I think that has to happen. When I was growing up in Allagash, my parents were young. My dad was 20, my mother was 16 when they had me. It wasn't a great marriage, and when they finally decided to call it quits. I was kind of happy because like I said, it was a tough time. And my father used to take me with him. My dad was a logger or trucker, and he used to take me with him a lot because I'm sure he wanted to spend time with me, make up for what he thought was his inadequacy as a father. And for me, it was a time to spend a little more time with him. Which was great, because I didn't get a chance to see my dad a lot. He spent a lot of time working, there'd be weeks on end I wouldn't see him. And I also got to skip school a lot, which was great. But one of these times that he took me with him I was like in the 7th grade, 11, 12 years old, and he took me to a place in Allagash called the High Landing, and it was for a strike. And this was during a period when people were using cable skidders, chainsaws, and they were transitioning to mechanical harvesting at the time. And the big landowner wanted to cut the price. They weren't even trying to get more money, they were just trying to hold on to the money they were making. And so when I get out there, all these men were laughing and kidding around, and I would imagine they were trying to get over their anxiety of what they knew was to come, but I didn't. I didn't understand wealth inequality. I didn't understand power differentials. I didn't understand any of that stuff. But when the landowners, showed up, he got out of the car, and the first thing he told all those men was, if you don't go back to work in the morning for what I'm paying you, he said, I'm going to replace you all with Canadians. In my area, that's a big deal. It still is today, because the Canadian workers are good people, they're hard workers, they're trying to do everything they can for their families, but because of exchange rates and they have national health insurance and things like that, the reality is they can do it for less. And we've always been pitted against each other. And so for something that had been, I don't want to call it jovial, but somewhat of a festive thing before, at least to me, these people started yelling and screaming, you know, angry, and I'd never seen anything like that before. You know, grown men yelling and spitting at each other, you know, spit flying. And I was standing behind my dad, you know, a lot like this podium, and I was scared. And it made a real impact on me. You know, and it still does today. It was the first time that I saw somebody with power show people that they didn't matter. They really don't matter. And I understood that very well at 11, 12 years old, that people can be made to feel that way. And, you know, as he left, and that ended. And, you know, most of my life after that, you know, my father was very clear they didn't want me to work in the woods. And he told me that it was not a good thing, and he said, if you do, don't act like you're making money, don't act like you're, you know, doing well, because, you know, it won't be something that'll, you know, work out well for you. But I was an idiot, and whenever I got out of high school, I followed him into the woods, like most of my colleagues in high school. And I fell into the same problems that he did. You know, chasing jobs, trying to make trying to make money, trying to make a living, and working long hours. But when I had my own kids, that's when the things really started to become a problem. Because, you know, then, you know, I had to do better. I had to, you know, make enough money to, you know, support us all. And then I started, you know, chasing jobs downstate. I'd be gone all week. I didn't know during the week if my wife and kids were okay, because we didn't have cell phone service. I would be gone out in the woods, you know, Sunday through Thursday. And I really started, you know, having a hard time coping with what was going on. And I started understanding, you know, what it was like for my father that day when the man with all that power and influence stood up there and said, you know, do it or go home. I really understood, you know, that imbalance then, and it started becoming more and more of a problem for me. And so in '98, when the group of us started meeting about challenging the log industry, the exchange rate went to like 55 cents on the dollar, and we really were having challenges. This one gentleman that lived across the road from me, Hilton Hafford, someone that worked in the woods for a long time, but even though he was my neighbor, I didn't know him because I didn't have time to know him. You know, I was all the time chasing jobs and work other places. He stopped me and he said, you know, how are things going? And I said, well, you know, not too great. He said, well, we're going to have these meetings. And we started trying to get our elected officials to meet with us. Susan Collins, Lindsay Snow, Angus King, and they refused to come and meet with us. They sent some of the bureaucrats. They didn't want to really do anything to help us. And so this final meeting that we had in Fort Kent with, again, probably 80, 90 loggers, much like my father 15 years previous, we had this meeting, and it became the whole thing where nobody wanted to help us, nobody wanted to do anything. And Hilton, you know, said, look, he said, I'm going to the border on Monday morning. I'm going to, you know, do something to try and bring attention to this. He said, how many are you willing to go? And everyone in the room was like, yes, you know, yelling, screaming, saying, yes, we're going to do this, hell yeah. And when I left there that night, I mean, my whole life after that time with my father had been, you know, don't do anything, don't say anything, don't show them, don't pick your head up, don't get in line. And so my thoughts were, this is going to go away like everything else. And so I totally thought, I'm not going. I'm not going to do anything. You know, they're just going to make an example out of anyone that does. And so Saturday came and went. Most of Sunday came and went. And Sunday afternoon, the phone rang. And at that time, I was actually separated from my wife because, like I said, I was an idiot. And I was staying at my mother's. And he called at my mother's and asked me if I was gonna go. And I was on the phone with him, and I was asking him, well, Hilton, who do you have? Who's going? You know, is anyone gonna go? And I was asking him all these questions because I didn't wanna go. I knew what that meant. I knew that if you went, you were probably going to be black marked, you know, made an example of. And all the time that I was on the phone with him, I was, you know, trying to figure out a way. But all the time that he was talking, it was hitting me that it never changes. You know, the system is broke. It's against us, and it's always been against us. I mean, I watched my dad go through that. I watched my dad stand there with his own son standing behind him, being made to feel like, you know, his pride and everything was taken away from him when they told him to go do it or go home. And it just hit me that I had to do something. I had to do something different. And so I said, yeah, Hilton, I'm gonna go. And so we get up in the morning, again, no cell phones or anything like that, no communication. I left at 2 o'clock in the morning. We went up to St. Paulfield. And of course, there was, like I said, supposed to be 90 of us go. When we got there was 15 of us that showed up. And we didn't really have a plan, but the Canadian border was right there. We parked our pickups across the road in St. Paulfield, and we said, you know, no more Canadian workers are coming in, no more American Woods going out, and we're going to block the roads here until our elected officials come and meet with us. And around, 5 o'clock when the border opened up, all those vehicles pulled up. Of course, they were mad, they were angry, and I don't blame them. They were trying to do what they could for their families, and we tried to make them understand that it wasn't an American-Canadian thing. It was a greed thing. It was an American landowner thing that was actually pitting us against each other. And you know, we didn't really want to fight with them. We wanted to fight for a fair system for both of us. About 9 o'clock that morning, we started getting word that those politicians wanted us to come down to Fort Kent and meet with them. And we said, well, look, you know, we tried all summer to meet with you. The hell with that. You know, you come up here and meet with us. Of course, they wouldn't. So we stayed there. Tuesday night, we found out that some of the workers were slipping into Dakwam, going around the blockade. So Wednesday morning, we took half of the 15 and we went to Dakwam. We blocked the border there on Wednesday. Wednesday night, we found out that they were going into St. Just. So we took half the people in Dakwam and we blocked the St. Just border on Thursday morning. So on Thursday, I was at Dakwam. Me and Toby Haffer, just the two of us, had blocked the Dakwam border with just 2 pickups against 35 Canadian pickups. And it was pretty intense, you know, and I mean, truth be told, if they wanted to take us out of there, they could have. But it was something that I felt strongly that had to be done, and I still do today. That, you know, sometimes government is just broken and you have to stand up for it. You know, the way the logging industry works, Monday to Thursday, the most part. So we left there and met our politicians on Friday in Fort Kent. They said that they needed a cooling off period. Would we stand down? And we said no. So we went back Monday morning, and they came up Monday morning and they arrested us and took us out of there. And they you know, feel like they beat us, but they didn't. Because for me, you know, that started me down a path of understanding that government doesn't work the way that I always thought it worked. You know, I grew up believing that if you played by the rules, did everything right, government was going to be there for you, but that is not the case. It is absolutely not the case. In my opinion, government is only there for the people with the power and influence that are in Augusta day in and day out and push politicians that are weak and do what they want. And that's why I decided that I was going to run for legislature. I wanted to be just a part of the team that would stand there and fight for everyday working class people to have the issues that they deserve. I just wanted to be part of the team, and so I ran for House seat. I got elected, and I kept pushing. I decided I'd run for Senate. I got in the Senate. That wasn't enough. I ran for leadership. That wasn't enough. I ran for the Senate president, and we did. we did a lot of great things. We did things like Samantha was talking about. You know, we did some of the most progressive reproductive rights in the whole country. When the Supreme Court was going back on Roe versus Wade, we were going the other way. We did universal school meals here in the state. We did child care. You know, we did collective bargaining bills. I mean, there's so many things that we did that were really great, and I'm proud of that. But unfortunately, just like that day back in the Highland, and there was always people with power and influence that was saying, do it the way we want or go home. And that is why I'm running for governor, because I'm sick and tired of people with power and influence that are on the second floor of that Blaine House or that State House, that a bill gets enacted to make prescription drugs cheaper, and they get it vetoed. A bill gets enacted to stop aerial herbicide sprays so that that poison gets sprayed all over North Main woods, and they get that blocked. A bill is enacted so that non-disclosure agreements are put into contracts so that people that are sexually harassed can't talk about it, and that gets vetoed. All these things that should be enacted so that everyday working class people have their rights protected, but are always stopped because people with power and influence have the upper hand in Augusta and in DC, and that is what I can't stand, and that is what haunts me today still, every damn time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm sick to death of not getting the things that we want enacted, and that's why I'm running for governor. It's the same thing as whenever I got that call from Hilton, 22 years ago when I was on the phone, and it just hit me, something more has got to happen, and I changed my mind that I had to step up, I had to do something. That's why I'm running for governor, because it's not going to change. We got some great people running this race, but I can promise you that the status quo will continue if they get elected, because that's where they come from. And they're not going to change the system. I want to upset the system. It doesn't work for us. I know damn well, because I've been there for 20 years and I watched it. I watched it every time something significant would have happened for us. It didn't, because they always blocked it. And I can't stress that enough, how unfair and the words I want to use. But again, this race really has come down to making it so that for once we would have somebody in that Blaine House that is going to sign bills that no one else is going to. They're just not. I know, because these are all bills that we passed. We passed in the last couple of years, things like buying arbitration, things that got vetoed. That if we have the right person there, we're going to change the system. We just are, and they're scared of that. They truly are, because the people with power and influence don't want it, and that's why I'm running for governor, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd love to have your support.
Okay, thank you everybody. Oh, the mic's on. Thank you everybody for thank you Troy for speaking. Once again, maybe one more round of applause. That was amazing. We'd like to open it up to questions now. If you don't have one prepared, that's totally fine. This is for the students at least. This is your opportunity to speak with somebody who very well may be our next governor. So. Yeah, take this opportunity. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll come over to you with a mic. Anybody?
Hi, Troy.
Hi.
So you talk about the fact that the people with establishment, with influence, keep blocking the good things that we're trying to do. What can you do as governor and a leader of the state to diminish the influence of the lobbyists?
Sure. So, what Samantha was talking about when she was up here, I spent a lot of time, in my opinion, recruiting really great people to run for the state senate. We had working class people, we had union members, we had people that understood firefighters, teachers, and people that understood what it would be like for working class people when they were voting. Because the Maine legislature obviously is a very hard place for a working class person to serve in. It's a part-time legislature, doesn't pay very much, and getting people to run is a challenge. And we had a great majority of people that was running there. And so I felt that we had already accomplished being able to get legislation passed that already did that. I mean, we passed 4 or 5 bills that went after Big Pharma, did some of the most progressive legislation in the country to lower prescription drugs. Like I said, we passed buying arbitration for the first time in the history of the state, not once, but twice. We passed all kinds of universal school meals. I mean, they told us we couldn't do that. Child care, the list goes on and on. I mean, the legislation on reproductive rights also was one of the most, all these things, we got them passed. The challenge with the lobby is as soon as we get them passed, which is an extremely hard job. I mean, both chambers, 3 separate times, getting them unfunded off the table. There's so many different ways that you can kill a piece of legislation. But as soon as we get them passed, they just run to the second floor and get the governor to kill them, which is the easiest thing to do. And so now, my theory is that we have to have a governor that's going to sign the legislation, and I'll do that. That's what I'm talking about with changing the system. We need a governor that's going to stand up for working class people, and we haven't had that. That's one thing that I know for a fact because I've been there for 20 years, and I've watched it time and time again how good legislation either gets watered down, gets killed, or even worse, when we do pass it, they don't have their administration actually enforce it. We got all kinds of legislation that's out there that they just don't enforce, which is even worse, having people in the public that says, well, what happened to that bill that you passed? And you can't explain to them why the agency won't go out there and enforce it. I can promise you that legislation's on the books. I'm going to enforce it because people should have legislation that's on the books enforced, and they should know that everyone has to play by the rules. Yeah, absolutely.
Riley?
Maine and the United States are experiencing what I consider historic levels of polarization and party divide. How do you approach conversations across the aisle, and what do you think needs to be done to reduce that political tension?
Yeah. That's a really great question. For me, working with Republicans, Green Party, Independent, I don't have a bit of problem with that. I mean, maybe that's a fact that I was in every party myself at one time, the trying to be honest and sincere with people, not trying to pull a fast one on them, something that I feel very strongly about. I think anytime you can show people that you are trying to be honest and work with them, I think they're immediately going to at least let down part of their guard. In the last 2-3 terms that I was Senate President, I was really clear with my colleagues on the other side. I'm not going to do income tax cuts for wealthy people. I'm just not. Just get over that. But anything else that you want to talk about, I'm open to talking about. And in this campaign here, I really want to focus on economic issues. Child care, nursing homes, health care, prescription drugs, property tax reform, housing, reproductive rights. If those things can't bring Republicans and Democrats together, I don't know what can. It seems to me that can be the thing that binds us all together. because it affects us all, and I really feel strongly about that. But all I'm trying to do is be very honest and sincere with everyone in this race, Republicans and Democrats.
Thank you very much. Quick question. In this upcoming debate with your opposition, how do you believe you'll handle the hostility going into it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really care about the hostility towards me. I mean, unfortunately, I've had to deal with that, as you've heard, since I was a young boy. Men like that seem to be, unfortunately, something that many of us have to deal with. Paul LePage has had, great words to say about me too. We got Donald Trump. I mean, it seems like this is how some people like to campaign. What I don't like, what I really don't like, is what Bobby's doing to people in the state that are black and brown, Somali women. I detest that, and somebody needed to call them out, and I want to do that because it upsets me. They're good people. We need people to come to Maine. We need immigrants to come to Maine. And what they're doing is really making it unsafe for them, making it challenging for them, and it's just not the way Maine should be. And for lack of a better word, it pisses me off that people are acting like that. It pisses me off that there's people in Maine that think that's okay, because it isn't. It just isn't, and that's why I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I don't care how Bobby treats me, but people need to know that that type of rhetoric is hurting the state, and it's certainly hurting people in it. And there's people, there's a lot of people in Maine that had to go through that before, that should remember what it was like, that seem to have forgotten, and hopefully I can remind them of that.
I'll preface this by saying former Governor Paul LePage once appointed himself as Commissioner of Education. And so I think one of the most important roles of the governor, especially at the beginning of being appointed, is appointing your cabinet. And so I'm wondering how you might go about that if elected.
I don't know that I've actually thought about how I'm going to appoint him, because that feels like putting the cart before the horse, and I don't want to jinx myself or anything like that. But it is the thing that really excites me, though. I mean, much like the Senate President, being able to, put people in those spots, was really exciting. And for me, I keep saying that, this campaign and my administration is not going to be a top-down administration. Like, I want, the best people in there challenging me, explaining what I don't know. I have really strong suits, but I have weaknesses too, and I know that. But the aspect of picking a cabinet and finding those people and hearing them out and all that is so exciting to me. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. I haven't really decided how that would happen, but it will be a really great thing for me. But I mean, like I said, I'm going to be looking for, some of the best people to come in and challenge me, and explain to me things that how we can make the best out of the state. I mean, that really is something that I think is missing right now. I really feel that there's no challenge. This shouldn't be the governor's all-knowing. This should be a collaboration, and I really feel that way.
Thank you for speaking with us. a lot of studies show that young people who go to college in Maine, go to high school in Maine, end up leaving the state, possibly for some of the reasons you talked about with your experience in the logging industry. As a governor, what policies would you support to ensure that Maine's young people choose to stay here rather than take their talent to other places?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have tried a number of things that have been blocked. We've tried student debt forgiveness, like, you know, every year that you can stay here, we forgive a year of debt. But I think the key to that is trying to obviously attract more business that would excite students to stay here. I still have real great hope for our natural resources industry, but I understand that that's probably not going to excite a lot of the students that we're educating here in Maine. But I do think that we still have a lot. I think we have a lot of opportunity to bring a lot of the higher tech industries to Maine because of our climate here. As far as the friendliness of our climate, the work ethic, and I think the way that we're going to be able to do that is with tax incentives that we can bring them here. I did the tax incentives to bring IDEX to Westbrook. I did the tax incentives to create McCrum processing up in Washburn. I know I met some people, there you go, originally from Washburn, that actually has done very well for that community. We can do things like that. We can create the jobs that we want based on that, and it doesn't hurt our economy with those tax incentives in the out years like that. And again, that's the area that, like with Jackson Labs, with NDIBL, there's so much going on there that I really think that we can create these clusters, the Rural Institute and stuff like that, that we can create opportunities here in Maine that makes Mainers want to stay here. But that also goes into our housing issue. We have to have quality, affordable housing for students. Well, they wouldn't be students at that point, but young Mainers to live in. And right now, that's a real challenge. And I have whole ideas on how to create more housing, how to help people pay for that housing. Again, with tax incentives, with lower cost housing. In the manufactured housing space with 3D printed homes that are coming out of Orono. There's a whole bunch there, and again, lowering our property tax burden for the existing homeowners. All those things, I think, are a piece of how we keep Mainers here, how we help lower their cost, and create an economy that people want to be here in Maine. But again, I don't know that the people that have had the levers of government as much understood that, came from there, or felt the urgency that I do on these things. That's who I am. I'm a working class person that gets it. What it costs to have a home or to be able to afford a rent, and what it costs to pay your insurance and all these things. I get it. I know it's a challenge. I know why people have to leave Maine to make a decent living, and we're going to fix that.
Hi, Troy. Tim here. Just going to follow up on we have the designated Secretary of War comes to a self-designated Secretary of War who comes to Maine and goes to Bath Shipyard. And he's talking to the workers down there, and he's making grand promises of the concept of a plan they have for these great new battleships that are going to be made in Maine. We're going to expand the other programs for all the ships we're making in Maine. Well, it's a chance those may not happen. And so how do you think you may capture some of those voters who are employees, who are workers, who are building the ships down there? Is there opportunities to maybe look for commercial ships to be built there and not rely so much on the defense. And we know how much is spent on defense in this country, so that may be unlikely to happen. But you know, if we could find other ways to, and maybe that they're not the only industry that we need to look at other options for Maine workers.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, I mean, full transparency, I'm a member of the Machinists Union, that Local 6 is a member. So I would say that everything would be on the table. I mean, to me, there's nothing that I wouldn't try. You know, if those destroyers didn't come to fruition, Bath Iron Works didn't get them, yeah, there's other things that obviously they can build. They build the best ships in the country. You know, maybe it's you know, windmill turbines or whatever. Maybe it's the manufacturer house, and I don't know, but there's nothing that I wouldn't be willing to talk about with Bath Iron Works to make sure that those 5,000 people aren't employed there, creating good jobs. I mean, so. And that's always been the way it is. I mean, people know, as Senate President, I mean, my door never stopped with people coming in, you know, talking about issues. I mean, that's how, you know, IDEX happened. That bill actually for IDEX, that was Paul LePage that actually got me to sponsor that. I mean, think about that. I mean, you know, yes, we were enemies, but they asked me if I would sponsor it, and I said, yeah, because it was good for the state of Maine. And you know, and I don't care if it's good for Maine. I'm interested in it. I think the judge. Yeah.
Troy, I know you have the support of most of the unions in the state, and you are a big supporter of the union. One of the reasons that I'm supporting you. And being a former economics major at Colby, let me ask you an economics question. It's a leading question. Is it true that when union wages go up, all wages go up?
Judge, thank you so much, and it is an honor to have your support, sir. I'm a big fan, but yes, I was not a union member for, I think the first 12 years I was in the legislature, and that was my argument all the time, is that unions raise the floor for everyone. So yes, the unions drive wages up, and actually they make safety for all other jobs better too, and that's why I'm a proud union member, because if nothing else, I'm a worker.
If there's a student who would like to ask a question, yeah.
Hi Troy, I'm sorry. Hi, thanks for coming to speak with us at Colby today. You shared an anecdote about organizing a blockade at the Canadian border, and I'm curious what your stance on immigration is today, Canadian or otherwise.
Yeah. Great question. So it's always concerned me, and that's why I kind of tried to throw in there that. So I was never anti-Canadian on the border. What that was the large landowners over here were using a program called H-2A program to bring in Canadian workers, and the program says that if you want to use a foreign worker, you have to demonstrate that there's no Americans willing to take the jobs. And even if there isn't, during that period, you can adversely affect Americans' wages or working conditions. So during that period, the 55 cents on the dollar, I mean, we couldn't get the jobs. Now keep in mind, some of those places were actually on state lands. The state was actually hiring people that were hiring Canadian workers, and we couldn't get those jobs. I mean, we just couldn't get them. I mean, if that's not an adverse effect, I don't know what it is. So it was always about the greed over here, not the Canadian workers. So you know, and like that, my ancestors out of Canada, you know, I have relatives over there, and so we were very, you know, clear trying to make it. So to your point now, immigration, You know, that's why I'm debating Bobby Charles. You know, we need immigrants. You know, I mean, we're all immigrants. I'm an immigrant. I mean, you know, everyone except the Native Americans here in the state are immigrants. You know, and we need more to come here to Maine because, you know, unfortunately we're an older state and we don't have enough workers. And so I'm very much pro-immigrant in what they've done here over the last month. You know, I've been out there arguing against it, you know, protesting with people. I put out a plan that if I was governor, I wouldn't let ICE agents on any state land unless they had a warrant. You know, it'd be a red line for me that if they violated the law, if they didn't have a warrant and they did any of the stuff they're doing, I'd have my public service safety commissioner arrest them. I mean, you know, you can't go around violating the Constitution just because you're an ICE agent. I mean, we all have to follow that. And if I was governor, I would be arresting those people. I mean, it just isn't right. And I think Governor Mills should have done that. I think that would have sent a message to them that you know, you can't come to Maine and violate the law. And so I'm pro immigration. I'm anti ICE violating the law. And if I was governor, they would know that they're not going to get away with that in this state.
You supported IDEX because it was good for the state.
Excuse me?
You supported IDEX because it was
Yes.
good for the state. The news just came out that Amazon's planning on building a big distribution center in Gorham, probably almost completely robotic. Do you think this would be good for the state?
I mean, on surface, probably not. I mean, I don't know enough about it right now, but probably on surface, probably not. I don't know much about it. Yeah.
Well, Troy, if I could selfishly ask a question as well.
Yeah, please.
I'm a student, and I think many other students are concerned about the state of our environment, and particularly climate change. In the face of rising energy costs, and I know Maine has some of the highest electricity bills in the U.S., how do you plan to balance our necessity to switch to renewable sources of energy, or at least clean sources of energy, while maintaining affordable energy?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a real problem right now. I mean, today I had numerous people calling me about their business energy bills. You know, we want to obviously get to our energy goals, and I support that. I think that the way that we did it, putting net energy billing onto ratepayers, was the wrong way. And what I would do is I would change that so that we made those tax incentives instead of putting them all on ratepayers. Again, the way that works with the tax, that's money that you're not going to see, you know, coming in, as opposed to, it sounds kind of, but if it's money that you've never had coming in, it's like you know, you didn't lose it, but for ratepayers to pick up the whole burden of that, it is a challenge, and for, you know, business owners to have it, you know, even more put on them, you know, it's really hurting, and so if that is the policy of Maine, I think that the way that we should have done that is make it so that if you have a solar field, you know, you're not going to pay as much in income tax, and you still get your money, you still get your incentive, but ratepayers are not the ones picking it up, and I think we can change that. I think we can change that system so that ratepayers get the relief that they need. The other thing that I would say is that, you know, as we were arguing, or I would call it arguing, as we were debating if we were going to do offshore wind, which I supported. At the same time, we were debating if we were going to do the Northern Maine transmission line. The Northern Maine transmission line has been, argued for years, but the wind energy in northern Maine is supposed to be some of the cheapest wind. And if you go to Worcester County and hang out there anytime at all, you will realize that it is true, the wind blows there all the damn time. I don't know what it is. Especially if you want to go fishing. It'll blow, you can't get your boat to sit still anytime. Ask my dad. But anyways, if we can get that transmission line built, there's like all kinds of wind energy that's already sited and everything to come out of there. And I really think that's a big key to helping Maine get to its energy goals, but also stabilize our energy costs in the state. And that's why I've been a big supporter of making that happen. I supported the offshore wind energy too. That's more costly, but I still supported it because I knew it was important to a lot of people also. But right now, with what Trump's done, we're not going to do offshore wind anytime soon, but we still have a chance to do the onshore in Worcester County.
Thank you. If we could do our last question now.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. So as you've spoken about, the logging industry is really important for Maine's economy and for Northern Mainers especially. Our North Maine woods are also a really important ecosystem and carbon sink and a natural resource. So I'm wondering what your views are for like the best management of this natural resource for the future.
Wow, that's a great question. I love that one. So I'm a logger, or I was a logger. My son's a logger. You know, it's still a big part of our industry. There are landowners that are overcutting the land. I don't understand why. It would seem to me if you have a product, you would want to hold that product and get more for it than to overcut it and you know, lower the cost of what you're getting for your product. And that's the way we used to cut. You know, we'd go in and selectively cut and, you know, take the bigger trees and then come back later on and cut, you know, and selective cutting was a far better way. It looked better, it was better for land, the animals, everything. The way that it's being done now, I'm not in favor of. But the other thing about this that I'm really not in favor of, and it's another thing that gets back to the power and influence that upsets me, is that we never used to spray glyphosate onto North Maine woods. And you know, as a logger, I watched that. I've been in places that they've sprayed right alongside of me. And I put in a bill, I think 4 years ago, to stop it. They said it wasn't happening. They stonewalled it. I brought the ACF committee to Northern Maine. I showed them where they were spraying it, right next to brooks, right next to rivers. We came back down the next session. We got it passed. I mean, I had to go down the house and cajole people and all this to pass it. And when we did get it passed, the governor vetoed it. I mean, you know, it's poison. I mean, it kills fish, it kills animals, it kills the trees, and I believe it kills people. And that's what they're spraying in the North Woods so that they can maximize trees, so that they can have more profits at the expense, I believe, of people's lives. And that is something that I'm going to stop. And if you want to talk about carbon sequestration and stuff like that, why would you kill all the hardwoods that are sequestering the carbon? If that's, you know, what we're trying to do as far as making the environment better. They're going out and killing all the hardwood trees so they can get the softwood quicker. And everything is upside down. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all, just for greed. People's lives, like I told you, like that day with my dad, do it or go home, your life doesn't matter. I mean, they're literally spraying poison so they can make more profits, and none of our lives matter.
Thank you, Troy. thank everybody one more time for coming to this event. It was a long time in the making. We were originally supposed to have it in October, then December, and now we're here. So one more round of applause for Troy, and thank you to his team.